Hey, how's it going? This is neo-serf. Today we're going to debunk a little bit of vegan nonsense that I've seen floating around on the internet, which is that going vegan will save the planet in some way. It's not true, and let's have a look at why. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is head to the EPA.gov website and have a look at whatever the official US statistics are for greenhouse gas emissions and their sources. And down near the bottom of the page is a graph. Okay, so here we are. We've zoomed in on the 2015 emission sources pie chart, and you can see that agriculture is the smallest part of the pie, massively eclipsed by electricity and transportation, which are about triple that value each. So if you're focusing on meat or agriculture, that's really, you really got the wrong focus. That's not to say that we shouldn't try and improve that figure, but it shouldn't be our number one priority. But what we were specifically talking about here is meat. So what we want to do is zoom into that 9% agricultural figure and see what we can find, see what the breakdown of that is. So here's the breakdown. No handy graph this time, just the same graph from the previous page repeated. But the text on the left there tells us what we need to know. So it's the very first paragraph says that management practices on agricultural soils accounts for over half of the emissions from the agricultural economic sector. Next paragraph is about ruminants. Ruminants produce methane as part of normal digestive processes and represents almost 1/3 of the emissions from agricultural economic sector. And the way in which manure livestock is managed also contributes methane and nitrous oxide, which is particularly bad if you saw my previous video. Different manure treatments affect blah blah blah. Management accounts for about 15% of total. So what I would do is add up those two values. I think around 30% from ruminants and around 15% from manure, and that comes to about 45% of the total for agriculture. So since agriculture in America is worth about 9% of the total, that means that animal agriculture is probably worth somewhere around 4% of the total. So if you went vegan today and were super hardcore about it, you could reduce your carbon footprint by around 4%. So that was US emissions. Let's have another little look at the breakdown in the UK. Once again, we can see agriculture at about 10%. Now, I had a look at the text of the study, and it looks like the breakdown is actually different in the UK, even though the total comes out to roughly the same. It seems that methane production from livestock comes up to around 56%, and nitrous oxide from the soil is only around 33%, where it was well over 50% in America. I suspect this is because of the geography of the two countries. A lot more corn and other such things being grown in the flat, wide areas of America, and it looks like we focus more heavily on meat production. In any case, animal agriculture, that's meat and dairy and others, seems to represent around 5% of the UK's total greenhouse gas emissions. So the conclusion of this is what we pretty much already knew. The largest contributors to global warming are electricity production and cars and other forms of transport. Meat and agriculture in general does produce meat greenhouse gases, but probably a fairly small amount in comparison. So I guess I want to sign off by leaving a message to any vegans that might be watching. The strongest case for veganism, in my opinion, is just the moral case of whether or not it's necessary to eat animals, if you happen to think that they're life forms and deserving of some sort of rights. There is a case to be made for that, and you're likely to get some sympathies there. Don't focus too much on the environmentalism for two reasons. Firstly, as I've pointed out, it's really an insignificant part of the contribution to global warming. And secondly, when people notice that certain environmental claims have been exaggerated to further political movement, that is very damaging to the environmental movement at the moment. There's a lack of trust in the scientific institution at the moment, which is why I'm making these types of videos just to see what I can find out on by myself, and see if there's any way that we could get the public to more easily understand what's going on with the climate. So that's what I wanted to say. This is neo-serf. Peace out.